Can you ever imagine being accused of assaulting a teacher? Then you admit to it in both places, the school and the court system? It's exactly what happened. 7 years ago, Fonte O'Bannon was accused of assaulting a teacher. And this was all caught on videotape. He was sentenced to 90 days electronic home monitoring and supervised probation after the assault on the St. Paul Central High School teacher. We want to warn you, this tape is very good to watch. Here's Angela Davis.
We know that student Fonte O'Bannon, he is essentially under house arrest after pleading guilty to third-degree felony assault. He must also undergo counseling and complete 150 hours of community service. Judge James Clark agreed with the probation officer in the case and chose to send the teenager home rather than to a residential treatment facility, which was the recommendation of the county attorney's office.
This has been a very, very, very bad nightmare for Fonte. He's hurt. He's disappointed. He's very, very humble and apologetic.
Fonte's mother told us he regrets what happened, but she believes he's not the only one guilty of wrongdoing. She's upset that the staff at Central High School didn't call her to inform her of the fight. Instead, she says she got a call from the police 3 hours later.
He's not the perfect kid, but he's not a violent kid.
This video shot on a cell phone camera shows the first moments of the fight. Fonte's mother says he was defending his younger brother who got into a fight with an older student. Fonte is the one with the orange backpack. Teacher John Ekblad has short blonde hair. The student's mother questions how the teacher handled the situation.
That hold that he did by choking him and slinging him from side to side and him throwing him into the trophy case, that was not a policy of St. Paul Public Schools.
Diane Dodd is the public defender assigned to Fonte's case and says he has no prior history of assault.
Before the judge gave his decision, he basically said to Fonte, look, you had a lack of judgment, and that's basically what psychologists tell us about juveniles, is that your brain's not fully developed yet.
She's seen video of the fight.
A prosecutor's perspective is Mr. Ekblad is trying to control my client, but my client and my perspective is more that my client felt like he was being attacked by Mr. Ekblad.
Fonte's mother told me she plans to sue the school district for failing to provide a safe environment for students and wants to see assault charges brought against teacher John Ekblad because she believes he used force first and caused the situation to escalate rather than calm down. Meanwhile, the teacher is also planning to sue St. Paul Public Schools over this incident, claiming the school district has failed to effectively manage school violence despite having knowledge of the problems.
So, sounds like we'll be back in court one way or the other.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Does Mr. Ekblad have complaints against him? Do we know?
You know, I asked a district spokesperson a question about his history, and she says that Human Resources records show that John Ekblad has had 2 written reprimands from 2003 and 2004, but she could not disclose the details at this time. But you know, he's been with the district for 21 years. He teaches physical science and physics, and has actually been a part of Central High School safety team. So that means he's one of the people they call on when they have emergencies or behavioral disruptions.
Like we saw there.
Like we saw there.
All right.
Right.
Thanks, Angel.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Alright, common sense alert. I mean, who's telling the truth? Did the teacher really choke him? Or didn't he? I mean, he was trying to break up the fight. If you're breaking up the fight, you need to push them away. You don't put them in a chokehold. I mean, think about that person who was arrested in Corpus Christi, Texas by the police department. You don't ever force somebody in a chokehold, period. If you break up a fight, you have to push them away. If you're not being trained on how to do so, you need to walk away and call security. Call security. They will take care. They will help you out here. And there ain't no winner you go to sign out. No winner at all. This isn't a joke. You should have broken up a fight, called in a staff member, another staff member to help break up the fight, and then this would have been handled properly. Two people are planning to sue the school district. Well, if this was the case, I believe the mother would win because all the evidence in that video. I mean, he hasn't had a record, but you should have just gotten a warning. Like, boys will be boys. Well, it's the old expression, but you probably get the picture here. If I never had a criminal record, but if I had a criminal record for assaulting a teacher, I wouldn't be placed on probation. I would be given a warning first. I would say if you ever assault if you assault my teacher ever again, you will be charged. You will be going to jail. I learned my lesson. I really learned my lesson, and this ain't no joke. If it was a joke, I wouldn't even be here. I never would be here. Still ahead, more of Ricky Rodriguez. You're going to hear from the family. You're going to hear from the family and the wife and that same person who was on Dateline. Coming up next, do you know about your checking account? We're going to tell you why you shouldn't be mailing in your checking account and why it's easier for thieves to steal your checks when it's a crime. Lee Thompson with a Dateline investigation. Stay with us. Are your checks safe? Back in the 90s, thieves could easily wipe out your account, your checking account, all of your money. And what if we told you? What if we told you the thieves get in if you mail it in the mailbox? Tonight we're going to show you some ways. Now, before I begin here, this is from Mighty Falcon 2011. This was screened at a teleconference at the Seminole, Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy in 2002. It was a teleconference found in the garage sale in Ohio. I replied from 1995, and T. Tango says otherwise. Take a look. Here's Lee Thompson.
It's like somebody walking up to you and putting a gun in your back saying, give me all your money.
We are out of $120,000.
It's cheap, it's inexpensive, and it's dangerous as hell.
With a PC and a laser printer, anybody can be a bank robber? Anybody.
You know all those exciting and terrifying robberies we see played out on bank security tapes? They're nothing in terms of loot. Well, they're something, about $65 million a year. But the real robbers steal as much as $5 billion a year. They wear nice clothes and don't carry guns. They don't play rough or get out of breath. They simply write themselves a check.
Well, he got me with the point of a pen.
Ruby Gatrell and her husband Vern Weiss live in Sylmar, California. She's a nurse.
Spin your thoughts.
He's a professional square dance caller. They had a comfortable life until January 17th of last year.
I heard the horrible rumble, and I knew instantly what it was.
Ruby and Vern live 5 miles from the epicenter of the Northridge earthquake. 68 homes in their neighborhood burned to the ground. Luckily, their home could be fixed with the help of some big insurance checks, which they carefully deposited into their bank account. But police say that when Ruby and Vern moved into this apartment building during repairs, a computer-skilled check fraud artist living down the hall was watching and waiting and printing. A check counterfeiter was about to strike.
I was going to sit down and write a check to the contractor who was repairing the home, and the lady who was on the phone said, "I'm sorry, you can't do that. You have insufficient funds."
What was your immediate thought when she said, "There's not enough money here"?
"That's impossible."
And she said,
"Well, let's run over your last 5 checks."
and she did.
And she did. And I said, "They're not mine. I didn't write those checks."
Ruby and Vern's account had been wiped out by 5 counterfeit checks totaling almost $18,000. As a result, their real checks bounced. All their credit cards were frozen, and Vern got stranded on a square dance gig in Alaska. It took almost a month before the bank paid their money back. In the meantime, they had to borrow money from friends just to get by.
There was no way I could get any cash to even buy a pack of gum if I wanted it, much less a tank of gas to go to work. In fact, the clone checks don't look like your checks at all. Nothing like my checks. They're not even the same size, not even the same color. Weren't signed by either you or Vern. No. And yet they still went through. Yes.
Check fraud probably is the number one way today that the criminals are attacking the financial systems of the United States.
Robert Razor, the head of the Secret Service's Financial Crimes Division, says cheap and powerful personal computers and laser printers have made our checking accounts very vulnerable.
Probably the most significant thing that has happened in this arena is the desktop publishing, computer-generated instruments. It makes it almost impossible in the current environment to be able to tell a good check from a bad check.
And just like Ruby and Vern, anybody with a checking account is at risk. We're going to show you how to protect yourself, but first you have to know how cloning works. We're not about to teach would-be crooks how to do it, but we'll show you enough so you'll realize it doesn't take a genius to be a check cloner.
Let's go into a typical computer room in someone's home or even a small business.
Frank Abagnale has a checkered past, and that's more than a pun. In the early 70s, Frank passed enough phony checks to get him 4 years in prison. These days, banks hire him to advise them how not to get ripped off.
For example, you have a business card?
Just happen to have a business card.
Okay.
Because you told me to bring one.
All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your NBC logo. I'm going to transfer that by scanning it into the computer and actually create an NBC check.
We won't tell you what the next steps are, but they aren't terribly complicated, and with less than $2,000 worth of gear, anyone can print checks. And if you put someone else's account number on the bottom of the check, you're a check cloner. So in our attempt to make life convenient at home, we've allowed everybody to become a bank robber.
Well, we've made it a lot easier for every forger.
That is incredible.
This is our finished check.
It looks really just like a real check.
And what is scary is that the average consumer, as well as the average banker and the average corporate chief financial officer, is totally unaware of how simple it is and how much exposure they have.
Big-time cloners go after companies or even cities. Their pockets are deep and they process hundreds, even thousands of checks. Miami Police Detective Sherry Ward.
Checks were very good. The checks were very good to the trained and untrained eye.
In August of last year, Miami wrote 4 refund checks for less than $75. Somehow, a man calling himself Victor Lettieri allegedly got his hands on these small checks and applied a little computer artistry.
These checks were somehow duplicated by this individual into various amounts totaling close to $750,000.
According to police, here's how he did it. After he copied the checks, he changed the amounts, made them out to himself, and deposited them into checking accounts in several banks. They were such good clones that passed several levels of scrutiny. And after they cleared, he started withdrawing cash until a teller spooked him.
And she said to him something regarding to verifying if his funds were okay. And that's when he took an exit out the door, never to be seen again.
The man posing as Victor Lettieri didn't get all of his stolen money out, but police say he did get away with $120,000. It took months, but detectives say they finally discovered his real name, Peter Suarez. After a nationwide manhunt, he was recently arrested in Kentucky.
He's able to do magic with a computer. I mean, magic beyond our imagination.
And who will pay Miami's loss? The bank and the city are negotiating, but in the end, the taxpayer will pay. Because if the bank takes the hit, it can write it off on its corporate income tax. But when it comes to consumers, if a cloner hits your personal checking account, unlike your credit card where the law says you're only responsible for the first $50, with check fraud, there are no hard and fast rules.
If you exercised ordinary care and you reported it immediately, we're going to reimburse you most of the time. But there's no guarantee. There is absolutely no guarantee.
Lisa Wilhelm, a senior vice president at Wells Fargo Bank, says it's strictly up to the bank whether people get their money back. The American Bank Bankers Association says there are no statistics on how many cloning victims have been left holding the bag.
It depends on whether or not you exercised ordinary care. Did you keep your checks in a safe place? Did you look at your statement when it came? And
Lisa Wilhelm's bank is where Ruby and Vern keep their money.
And I don't see how we could have been any more careful and order.
do you know to this day how this person got a hold of your bank account number? No. I have checked all my accounts. I have checked all my statements. I have went through every single check. I have none missing.
Police arrested Ruby and Vern's former neighbor, Joe Morris Thompson, who they suspected of having burglarized apartments and mailboxes to get account information. Police say Thompson opened checking accounts under at least 12 different phony identities. And that's the other half of the check cloning game. A cloner has to deposit his phony checks into accounts opened under phony names in order to avoid being caught. As we'll show you, it's amazing how easy it is.
All you need to do is sign.
That's good.
And give me some money, and that's about it.
There are an awful lot of people out there that don't realize that the system is under attack. That this can happen in basically any bank or any institution in the country.
It can happen anywhere in a bank or in a country. Now, when we come back, we're going to show you how you can protect yourself from check fraud. And we'll show you hidden camera footage. Reminder, this was from a meeting back in 2002. I commented saying it was from 1995. The original owner, the person who uploaded the video, found 2011 said, TV Tango says otherwise. But I know. In 1999, when it was a two or three-parter special, and that's what I always say when we return. That was back in 1999-2000. But back before all that, Jane Pauley, Stone Phillips, and the Angels were saying, when we come back, when we return, in a moment, coming up, still ahead, etc. That's how I know. And Stone Phillips did not use the mic on his shirt. He used it on his suit jacket. That's how I know. Lee Thompson continues with check fraud. Stay with us. We're talking about check fraud. Now, you've just seen how crooks can use computers. All it takes is for them to scan in your information. It's on the computer with your checking account. And they can withdraw your money. When you know you didn't make those purchases, you didn't withdraw this cash. So you better well protect yourself. Be prepared as banks may not be telling you the whole situation. It's like Dr. Phil always asks, do you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem? Here again, Lee Thompson.
You are looking at a check cloner's dream. That man is making a mistake that thousands of us make every day. More on that in a moment. But before you can understand how dangerous that is, you need to know how a crook launders the money he steals from you.
I think the Achilles heel in the system is the ability to assume someone else's identity.
Forgery detectives we have talked to from all over the country say one of the best ways to stop these fraud artists is to cut them off from opening checking accounts using phony names. But they also say most banks don't want to risk offending their customers by asking too many questions or scrutinizing ID. So we decided to challenge the system.
Can you get your driver's license? My driver's license?
Yes.
Okay.
Using a hidden camera, I opened a checking account. She didn't even remove my ID for a closer look. If she had, she might have noticed I was using a color copy of my real driver's license. I opened 3 more checking accounts. No one caught the fake because no one looked closely. But since 2 banks did recognize me as a Dateline correspondent, we decided to send in an unknown customer. Jarl Velez is a Dateline researcher. Banks told us they require new customers to present at least a government-issued photo ID, driver's license, or passport. So we cooked up a bogus ID for Jaro just by using NBC letterhead stationery. Then we sent her off to 4 more banks.
I just need to see 2 forms of identification.
Okay.
This bank accepted our fake plus a voter registration card, which has no photo and could easily have been stolen or forged. The next 2 banks accepted the fake plus an easily stolen or forged credit card. But finally, one bank did the right thing. Almost.
Unfortunately, we need at least a driver's license or a state-issued non-driver's license or a passport.
But watch what happened. Just before Jaro got up to leave, the branch manager stepped in and opened the account.
And again, I apologize. Thank you so much.
Bruce Brett is the chairman of the American Bankers Association Check Fraud Task Force and an officer of Signet Bank.
Would you open an account with just that kind of identification?
I'm afraid you're going to tell me that you opened them all over the place. I hope not. No, I hope not. But obviously, you see from the checks that
4 more banks.
Yeah, I am afraid that the banking industry has strayed too far in the direction of what they consider customer convenience and creating profits for the bank, which is opening checking accounts for people.
If we were check cloners, we now would have 8 checking accounts to launder money through. And all we would need is someone to steal from. Someone with a checking account.
The ability for individual checking accounts to be hit are certainly as high as corporate accounts. You have to remember that the bad guy goes where the money is. And what the bad guy does is looks for account number information.
Where would a crook look? He could go dumpster diving, digging past banana peels and cottage cheese for a carelessly discarded deposit slip or bank statement. But why get dirty hands when many banks and their unsuspecting customers make it so easy? Remember how our story started? It was noontime. Phoenix businessman Brett Ward cruised by his local ATM for a little lunch money. We were watching with a hidden camera. There it is. He just tossed his receipt. He didn't even think about it. He just threw it in the trash. We picked it up and, without telling him why, asked for an interview.
Do you recognize this?
Yeah, it's my checking account. It's my day and night teller receipt.
ATM receipt.
ATM receipt.
Did you know your account number is on that ATM slip?
Not until just now. I never even really thought about it.
Am I making you nervous?
A little bit.
Before Brett arrived for his interview, we had cloned 8 $100 checks on a personal computer using the account number that many, but not all banks print on their ATM receipts. Brett agreed to let us see if the cloned checks would clear his account, and we gave him cash to cover the checks.
I've never seen your signature, right?
No, you never have.
Hi, how are you today? Just fine, thanks. I just want to make a deposit.
The next day, just as a crook would, we deposited the 8 checks we had cloned on Brett Ward's account into the 8 accounts we had opened with our questionable IDs. Would they be caught? After waiting a few days for the checks to clear, we cashed out. Every one of our clones on Brett's account cleared the banks. A surprise? Not if you consider that U.S. banks process an average 120 million checks every single night using high-speed automation.
We all sign our checks vigilantly. Does anybody ever look at those signatures?
No, there's too many checks. There's no way to look at every single check.
If I signed a check, Minnie Mouse, do you think it would go through?
It might. Definitely might.
Because nobody ever sees that signature.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. It could happen. In fact, we should probably test it and see if it would.
We already had. While banks do some spot checks and scrutinize any check, say, over $25,000, we wondered if this $500 clone on Brett Ward's account with the signature of a well-known rodent would make it through. And a few days after depositing it, Minnie had cleared.
Well, we've got Minnie at the top, one goofy way.
Obviously, nobody ever looked at that check.
This is the problem. This is the problem.
Many banks are selling customers expensive high-tech check paper that prints void, void, void all over it if you try to copy it. Will it stop a cloner? Well, in our case, we printed a $1,000 check on that special paper. It said void all over it. We signed it with a nonsense squiggle, and instead of Brett Ward's name and address, we printed, "Please don't pay me. I am a counterfeit check." And here's the $1,000 to cover it.
I can't believe it, really. I can't believe that the banks are letting, if this goes through, I can't believe it, really.
Well, believe it. It cleared.
Great. Did you get this one through?
Yes.
It's disgusting. That's too bad. That's too bad. And all we can do is keep trying to push the information out there to make more bankers aware of the problem.
We asked 2 more ATM receipt droppers to join our experiment. Of the 29 clones we deposited, only 2 were caught, both by Citibank, and only because we believe an alert employee recognized my name as a Dateline correspondent. As a real victim of a check cloner, Ruby Gatrell isn't surprised at all by those results, and she knows from experience how hard it is to get the authorities to pay attention when you do get hit, even when the hit is for $18,000.
You never got to put in a police report? Never. Nobody was interested. I made, 3 different stops and probably 20 phone calls. And I never even got a return phone call.
Ruby's bank, Wells Fargo, was able to get police attention, which helped lead to Joe Morris Thompson's arrest last year. But by the time the prosecutor filed charges 5 months later, Thompson had already been released and had disappeared. But last March, Thompson resurfaced. Police caught him fleeing a bank lobby and say he had 3 more fake IDs.
Now, the bad guys rely on the fact that nobody talks about what they're doing. If everybody talks about what they're doing and understands how they do it, it makes that eminently more difficult for them to be successful.
And Ruby and Vern are doing a lot more than talking. While they did eventually get their money back from the bank, these days they don't write many checks. They pay cash, use credit and debit cards, and carefully check their monthly bank statements. And if you want to find anything with Ruby's account number on it, forget it. It's shredded.
The less paperwork you have at home, the better off you are. Because you don't know who's looking.
Once again, just to reassure you, we did not show everything a check cloner needs to know to review it. But there are a lot of cloners out there who do know the secrets. So what more can you do to protect your money? Well, first, just link checking and savings accounts for protection against overdrafts. That way, if thieves do hit your checking account, they won't clean out your savings as well. You can also mail checks at the post office or postal boxes. Leaving them in your mailbox at home with the flag up is like inviting a thief to steal it. And insist that your bank remove, or as some banks have, at least shorten the account numbers on ATM slips. If they won't do it, you can always bank somewhere else.
Okay. And here's another tip through Common Sense Alert. Do not throw away your receipts. You need to hold on to your receipts. Don't throw them away, because that's easy access for these thieves to steal your checking account. If I use an ATM and threw my receipt away, that thief could easily take it and easily could wipe me clean. So know these tips. Don't link checking savings, mail checks at the post office, and your account numbers. And that's for the third tip right there. Your bank won't do it. You need to say, so well, since you won't do, break it to them nice saying, hey, since you won't do this, I'm gonna go bank somewhere else. Or that's one report. And the second way of doing it is, I'm gonna need to get your manager out here. And I do mean right now. Now let's see what happened after that report, because again, like I said before we went on break, this was from a training academy, the Peace Officer Training Academy 2002. He found, and the person who uploaded this found in a garage sale in Ohio. Watch.
The scene. Well, I think why I bring this video to this program today is to clearly exemplify why in the world would you want to go rob somebody, burglarize somebody, use a gun, and get a good chance of going into jail when this is about money.
It's about money, yeah. That's all it matters. The bottom line is, protect your checking accounts, so that way you won't be scammed. Okay, coming up next, do you use those lamps that have a little funnel shape on it? What if we told you they caught fire? They can catch fire. Don Petangelo with another Dateline investigation. Stay with us. Here's a question for you. Have there been any fires, hazardous fires in your house? What if we told you it all starts with your lamp? You know those little funnel lamps? That's how it all starts. So tonight, we're going to show you just how easily these lamps can burn by that popular lamp you always get for your house, and what you can do to protect yourself. Here's Don Petangelo with a Dateline investigation.
All of a sudden I felt this big wave of heat and I saw this flash.
Fire in a matter of minutes.
I looked up and I was on the phone and I go, oh my gosh, my house is on fire.
As it turns out, started by a product that, if not used properly, can be a deadly hazard. 16-year-old Shannon Carr was lucky. She got out alive. Minutes before a fire swept through her house, causing $150,000 in damage. Her mother, Debbie, remembers the aftermath.
The entire upstairs was gone. All 3 bedrooms, the clothes, furniture, the bathroom, all the pictures. What caused this fire? The light bulb in the way.
The lamp is a halogen floor lamp like this. Inside its open top sits a very bright tubular halogen bulb with a thin glass guard over it in case the bulb shatters. Many companies make these bulbs, including General Electric, our parent company. The lamp is one of the most popular in the country. An estimated 30 to 40 million have been sold.
I was sitting right
Shannon
here.
Carr's lamp was in her bedroom, near a window. One afternoon, she was folding laundry while talking on the phone.
I had curtains similar to this, but they were bubble curtains, so they were stuffed with newspapers. My halogen lamp was right here, and my hamper was right here. And I looked up, and my curtains were on fire, and my ceiling right here was starting to melt.
So just in a matter of minutes, while you're sitting here on the floor, your curtains were on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And the lamp, according to Shannon, wasn't even touching the curtains. It was placed just below them.
We did not like her story. We felt something was not right here.
Fire investigator Ron Rakosnik of Lombard, Illinois, was skeptical of Shannon's story.
When she told us 5 minutes, and we felt 5 minutes seemed unrealistic, so we felt that if we can reenact this somehow, we would do that at the fire station.
They did. This is a tape they made of their reenactment.
We set up the same way, the same dimensions. She said she had it was about 3 to 5 inches from the lamp to the shades, and we set it up that way. We turn the clock on, turn the lamp on.
The clock shows 5 minutes and 15 seconds after investigators turned on the lamp, the curtains caught fire.
Were you surprised at those results?
Yeah, we felt that the lamp could not get that hot that quick to ignite those combustibles, and it did. And it surprised all of us.
The Carr's fire is among 31 fires of this kind. The government's Consumer Product Safety Commission has been able to directly link to halogen floor lamps, like this one in Tempe, Arizona, in which a young woman was injured. And not far from there, a man was killed in another fire caused by a halogen floor lamp. But fire investigators we spoke with suspect many of these kinds of fires go unreported because they're not required to specify in reports what type of lamp or light bulb caused a fire. In fact, a 5-month Dateline investigation turned up more than a dozen fires which were not part of the CPSC's findings, including this one in a Boston suburb, started by a halogen floor lamp in a guest room.
Are these lamps safe?
Not if they're used like any other lamp. They're not going to be safe.
Evanston, Illinois Fire Chief Alan Burkowski has investigated 8 incidents in the past 2 years involving halogen floor lamps. Their design concerns him. The inverted shade of the lamp acts as a catcher's mitt. As this public service announcement shows, flammable items can get trapped in the bowl-like top, right next to the bulb or the guard, which can get extraordinarily hot.
They have that surface that just can entrap stuff and are high enough to ignite things such as curtains. These lamps have to be treated differently because they burn a lot hotter, and you need to take some precautions when you use them.
We wanted to find out how much hotter. Dayline asked a highly reputable independent testing laboratory, Inchcape Testing Services, to measure the heat of 3 300-watt tubular halogen bulbs. That's the size most commonly used. We also tested the glass guards. Keep in mind, a standard 100-watt light bulb used in many homes can reach 475 degrees. The lab found the guards around the halogen bulbs averaged 611 degrees, and the bulbs themselves almost 1100 degrees, more than twice as hot as the standard 100-watt bulb. Hot enough to start the fire in the car's home. Their lamp was equipped with a 300-watt halogen bulb and should have carried a warning like this, which says to keep it away from combustibles. But if it did, Debbie Carr says she didn't notice it.
A warning should be made where a person knows that anything near, even close to the lamp is at risk.
These warning labels vary. Sometimes they're the size of a Band-Aid, placed inside the dome of the lamp or wrapped around the electrical cord. But rarely is the label placed on the outside surface of the lamp, large enough so a consumer can't miss it and has to remove it before assembling the lamp.
Some of the lamps have the warnings in the hoods, so after you assemble the lamp, you never saw the warning again, or on the tag or the plug itself.
The Consumer Product Safety Commission is directed by Congress to protect consumers from dangerous products. The agency began an investigation into halogen floor lamps only last year, even though documents obtained by Dateline show it had reports of fires involving these lamps as far back as 1991. The agency turned down our request for an interview, saying its investigation is continuing. In fact, while it has the authority to investigate, the CPSC doesn't set the safety standard for halogen floor lamps. Instead, this industry-funded group, Underwriters Laboratories, sets the voluntary standard for the lamps. You've probably seen the UL label on a number of products.
Did you put the UL label on a safe product when you placed it on the 30 million halogen floor lamps that are out there?
If there is a UL label on a quartz halogen lamp, it meets all of the safety requirements in the standard and has passed every test that is applicable to that lamp.
John Dragenberg is an assistant vice president at UL.
Did you throw toys in the dome of this lamp? Did you throw draperies in the dome of this lamp? These are real-life scenarios.
The accident data available to us at the time that the standard was written did not indicate that there was a problem of this type.
But after a series of reported fires, UL decided to do something about halogen floor lamps. First, a warning to manufacturers to stop selling the floor lamps with 500-watt halogen bulbs.
We had recommended going to 300 watts because it gave off less heat.
Next, media advisories were issued warning consumers about the lamp's hazards. Never place them in children's rooms, near bunk beds, or near an open window where wind could blow draperies over the bulb. Dateline checked with a number of newspapers. Virtually none reported the advisories. But now, UL is making bigger changes. Come February, it will require halogen floor lamps to go through a much tougher safety test in order to carry the coveted UL label. We wondered if the UL-approved lamps on the market today could meet the new tougher test. Remember, there are 30 to 40 million of these lamps in use. So we asked the independent lab to test 3 popular lamps from different manufacturers using the new UL requirement. Here's how the test works. The lamp is turned on. After 15 minutes, a double layer of cheesecloth, which UL considers a highly flammable material, is draped over the top of the lamp. According to the requirements, if nothing happens to the cheesecloth for 7 hours, the lamp passes the test. Watch what happens with lamp 1, but it smells like something's burning.
It smells, yes.
After 34 seconds,
We have ignition.
the cheesecloth went up in flames. Bear in mind, this lamp is being sold now and carries the UL label. On lamp 2, holes were burned through the cheesecloth in 16 minutes. And the cheesecloth over lamp 3, again another UL-approved model that's still on the market, ignited in the shortest amount of time, a mere 25 seconds. The 3 lamps that we tested here with the new requirement, what happened?
They all failed to comply.
They failed. And that means the halogen floor lamp you already own could do the same thing and may be hazardous if you're not very careful with it. What's more, the new test applies only to lamps manufactured after next February. So before you buy a halogen floor lamp, check with a salesperson to see if it's passed the new test. Otherwise, you might buy a lamp as dangerous as the ones you've just seen.
If they can't be recalled or repaired, then they should be replaced by who's ever manufacturing them.
We asked the distributors of the lamps we tested to comment on the results. There was no mention in any of their letters to us about replacing their lamps already sold. In fact, all 3 say their lamps do meet the current UL standard. But one admitted no current halogen floor lamp could pass the new test. That means in order for these lamps to pass that test, they'll likely have to be redesigned. Even so, the government, which has the authority to recall dangerous products, says there are no current plans to recall the millions of halogen floor lamps out there. What would you tell people who are considering buying a lamp like this?
Honestly, I'd tell them not to.
Kmart and Cheyenne Industries, 2 of the distributors whose lamps were tested for our report, recently redesigned their products to meet the new UL standard. And just one other note, just yesterday, the Consumer Product Safety Commission and the Tensor Corporation announced a voluntary recall of 500-watt halogen bulbs, which have been included in some Tensor lamps. There were reports of the bulbs shattering, causing injuries and fires.
That's good. That's really good. So, next time you buy those halogen lamps, I mean, has there been any fires ever after those years? Has there been any fires? We probably won't know until we Google some. Well, there is one. Riley J. Jackson. This was from the BBC. This happened back in 2019. Are halogen bulbs safe? They have a six-year-old boy in a house in Derbyshire has raised questions about the continued halogen bulbs in homes. How safe are halogen bulbs and why have they been banned? I mean, if you got kids, this is what you need to do. Child Safety Europe recommends parents opt for LED lamps, which do not produce as much heat as halogen lamps. The said lamps could be placed for safe distance from pillows and do vents to avoid being knocked over, and children should be discouraged from pulling them under the covers to create a convoy test feeling. I mean, people may be asking, should we throw away our halogen bulbs? So, a Derbyshire Fire and the Rescue Service has now issued safety advice. So, if you live in that area, you need to listen up good. Replace halogen lamps with LED bulbs. LED bulbs can significantly lower temperatures than halogen lamps, which could reach up to 2,000 degrees Celsius. Always use a lamp shade on lamps. Place lamps on a stable surface. Don't put them in curtains. Don't put them near the curtains, because as you've seen, those can start the fires. Ensure wires and cables aren't stretched across the floor and that they don't present a trip hazard. Consider where lamps are in children's bedrooms. and where they are near combustible materials, especially if they are made like to make dents. Keep the immediate area around a lamp clear. You might be like, well, how can I tell if my lamp bulbs with halogen? The best place to check the box. But failing that, halogen bulbs are distinguished by their bulb within the bulb appearance.
If you'd like more information about halogen lamp safety, visit our website at www.dateline.msnbc.com.
And there's also one that happened this year. Just this year, the Isle of Dogs house caused by a hot halogen lamp. This was one from this year. Let's read it. A total of 4 fire engines, around 25 firefighters tackled the house fire in Chandler's News Isle of Dogs on Saturday, January 21st, which was 3 months ago. The London Fire Brigade called at 10:22 p.m. The fire was under control by 11 a.m. This was all in London, not here in the U.S. 3 people left the building before firefighters arrived were assessed on the scene by London ambulances service crews. Third floor of the terrace house was damaged. The fire is believed to be an accidental and caused by items coming into contact with the halogen lamp. Really? Fire crews from Millwall, Shadow, Whitechapel, and Bentley Green fire stations attended the scene. Main safety, so here's, okay. Alright, common sense alert. London, famous place. It's known for fish and chips, the Beatles, and soccer. But it's not known for halogen lamp safety? Give me a break. It's already been shown to you. If you can't recall this product in London, then basically what you need to do is to say to yourselves, we made a terrible mistake, we need to recall these. Well, one state made it, one country made it, one city made a difference in France and in London, and by banning the bulbs. Get the cooling bulbs. That reach 200 degrees Celsius, so that way everyone can be safe, and that this will never happen again. That's the common sense perspective. That's why you need to know this right away. So if you're gonna buy the lamp, you better do your homework before you go ahead and do it. So if you're gonna buy these, if you're gonna buy these lamps, you need to do your homework before you buy one of those. Okay.
New at 10.
Okay, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Now for some updates on stories that we're following on. First, in Oxford. Just hours ago, Fox Detroit posted an article relating to this. A review of Oxford Community Schools shows changes the district could make to improve safety. Guidepost Solutions released its independent report on threat and suicide assessments and physical security on Monday after being tasked with reviewing policies following the 2021 Oxford High School shooting. The report addresses current school safety and security policies and practices, not policies in place during that deadly school shooting. Several changes in the school since the shooting, including the addition of weapons detection systems or metal detectors. According to the findings, the district needs to improve its suicide and threat assessments along with the physical security. Guideposts provide dozens of recommendations for what the district should do to increase safety. These recommendations include inquiring about access to weapons, including school resource officers, threat assessments, evaluating its search policies. They noted that every threat assessment since the shooting has included a search. A practice, it says, should be evaluated continually to ensure sustainability and compliance with district policies and administrative guidelines. The report also evaluates the district's physical security, such as the weapons detection system. Recommendations for improving physical security include adding hardware that locks classroom doors from inside and shows the status of the log, restraining the school safety drills, and improving window laminates at the high school. This is their full report on here from Guidepost. I mean, all of it, 179 pages of it. So I'm glad something's being done about this. Now, what about Uvalde? Well, we are approaching our Give Me a Break 1 year and our Give Me a Break special Uvalde 1 year later. What the hell is going on? Well, just 1 day ago, the Uvalde teacher who survived the mass shooting feels abandoned by the school district. His name was Arnio Reyes. He told his 11 students to play dead when a gunman entered the classroom and started firing. He was the only survivor who went 11. The only survivor. Telling his side of the story about what had happened. We'll have that for you on our Give Me a Break special, which we are going to be weeks away. So our Give Me a Break special is coming up in 2 weeks. So on a special Give Me a Break Wednesday in 2 weeks, our Give Me a Break special Uvalde 1 year later, what the hell is going on, is going to be on a Give Me a Break Wednesday. Filled with going back to what happened and the people who told their sides of the story. Look for that May 24th on Give Me a Break Wednesday. Stay tuned for more details as it goes along. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, Viral Break. Take a look at this video from years ago of a gym teacher flipping out on an obnoxious student.
A disrespectful man that doesn't listen to anyone. 5 times I'm asking you to listen. You don't listen. You are a phony tough guy. Phony. Damn it. You keep doing all day long. All day. You don't listen to anyone. They're respectfully asking you to put your phone down. You don't. They're respectfully asking you to stop talking. You don't. You just don't stop. You know, I'm trying to get louder. I'm trying to get louder. You're instructions. You're not hearing the instructions. You don't need to touch your face with my face. That's the thing. You don't have to get my fucking phone. You do not have to get in my fucking phone. And you spitting on me too. So don't say shit. Don't say shit. You are so tough. Your toughness is really intimidating. I'm intimidated right now. I'm intimidated. I'm intimidated by that. I'm totally intimidated. No, you're trying to bait me into an altercation because you want to have a lawsuit. That's your toughness. I don't give a fuck about either. I'm not doing anything except asking you not to talk and asking you loud now. I do not care. Then leave. Then leave. Nigger. Okay, that's nigger. You're calling me a nigger. You're just calling me a nigger. You're calling me a nigger. Get out of the class. Get out of the class. Leave the room. Go wherever else you want. There's no need for you to put your. There is no need for you. I have to be loud. Man, is there anybody see it? Go outside. No. Go out. Leave. No. Leave. Unless you drag me out. No. I don't wait. Oh no, I'm not touching you. Shit, you referred to me as a nigger. Well, I said, and you can't use that term to any person at any time, regardless of what. You don't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck, and I'm a nigger. Okay, respect.
You're putting your face on another man like you can't do. What are you doing with yourself?
I want to
I'm
hug
17,
you.
you're a grown-ass man. You don't have to put your face on my baby. What the fuck are you doing? You don't do that to somebody else's kid. Are you gonna kiss the nigga? The fuck is wrong with you?
Nigga, I don't know.
What the fuck is wrong with
All
you?
that crap. What's happening? Listen, you are the fake tough guy.
I'm the fake tough guy.
You're the fake. Play with that phone. Don't listen to anybody. And you're the phony tough guy that you think you are.
Now take a look at a news report. After that was viral, this is what the media has put on. And if we had some time, I would throw in my common sense of, yeah, we may have some time. Let's just skip ahead to the report. Here's Caroline Gussoff.
Maurice and Christine, it happens. Kids talk back in school, but this time cell phone cameras were rolling, and now a teacher is suspended from his job, and students are rallying in his defense. A heated exchange between student and teacher recorded in gym class at Hewlett High School after the student apparently refused to put down his phone.
You don't listen to anyone. I respectfully ask you to put your phone down. You don't. I respectfully ask you to stop talking. You don't. You just don't stop.
Angry words escalate into obscenities.
You don't need to touch your face with my face. That's the thing. You don't have to get my phone. You do not have to get my phone.
You are so tough. Your toughness is really intimidating.
Tensions escalate after the student uses the N-word.
You're calling me a... Did you hear her? You're just calling me a... Get out of the class! Get out of the class!
The 3-minute exchange with thousands of online views prompted the suspension of gym teacher Chris Pasuelo, fondly called Coach Paz. Students rallied today to get the coach his job back.
He's a wonderful, wonderful educator and mentor. And he doesn't just teach you the curriculum, he teaches you life lessons.
High school junior Brianna Asimov applauds the coach for tough love, standing up to a disruptive student.
And to see a teacher finally do his job and put his foot down and say, enough is enough, put the phone away or get out, and the student to disrespect him in that manner was absolutely ridiculous.
They always say, go outside, take a walk, don't do that, whatever, and finally a teacher did his job.
But others watched the video aghast that the teacher didn't diffuse tensions.
I wouldn't want somebody talking to my child like that.
I have a 15-year-old son in a high school, and I would never, ever, ever have any teacher speak to him that way.
The district wouldn't comment, citing privacy. The student, not identified publicly, refused to leave the classroom. This witness thinks the teacher should have been the grown-up.
You should have instead called the office to get him out.
Friends say that student was also suspended. Neither he nor the suspended teacher responded to our requests for comment. Meanwhile, the school district won't say when or if either of them will be returning to school. In Hewlett, Long Island, Caroline Gussoff, CBS 2 News.
Wow. Okay, common sense alert. Common sense alert. That's I'm gonna have a short one of that tomorrow. That's keeping break for this Monday going into Tuesday. We'll see. I'll give you my common sense about this on a short video, and I'll see you again for Give Me Break Wednesday. For everyone here at YouTube, because we're now running out of time, I'm gonna give you my common sense perspective tomorrow afternoon at around 3:30. Look for that then. For everyone here at YouTube, good night.